Hello, I'm Christoph, your guide to the brain and nervous system. And today we're talking about the nervous system, not just the brain. The brain is the central nervous system, part of the central nervous system, but we're going to talk about the other divisions, the other areas in the body where neurons send signals to give us sensations and also movement. The neurons that do that are not only in the brain, but in the spinal cord, in the guts, the whole esophagus, stomach, intestine system, and right beside the spinal cord, there are sort of mini brains. We're going to talk about it all today. First, the central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord. So we got our beautiful brain here. Its whole structure, which will go in another video. The brain stem connects to the spinal cord. One kind of unique thing, all the parts of the central nervous system are encased in bone. Brain's in a skull. Spinal cord is in vertebra. The central nervous system gives rise to this whole world that we perceive. We taste something as like, yes, that's chocolate. That's our brain doing that. It tastes like this. What does that remind us of? Bring it into the memory area. It's chocolate. And also, anytime I tell my body to move and it does it, lift your hand, lower your hand, is the brain doing that. The brain controls conscious movement. It also controls unconscious movement. And it gives rise to the world. That's the central nervous system. But wait, there's more. The somatic nervous system. Soma means body, so somatic nervous system is in the body rather than in the head.
Somatic nervous system.
It's all the nerves that come off of the spinal cord and go throughout this body of ours. Starting up here, there are little nerves that go out to the muscles and tell them how to move. They control the movement of the jaw and the eyebrows. They're called cranial nerves. Here's the brain again and the spinal cord. It's a bunch of little nerves telling the face what to do. These are cranial nerves. They also feel. That's my cranial nerves telling me what that feels like. The cold breeze on your face. The cranial nerves bringing information from the skin on your face into your brain. There's also the spinal nerves radiating off. Spinal nerves go from that spinal column out to everywhere else on the body. Your chest, your back, your arms, your hands. There's a foot. All right, see this ridiculous body? The spinal nerves go into the arms. They go into the back, the belly, the legs. Everywhere in the body corresponds to some spinal nerve, taking in the information from that patch of skin, that area of the body, and they're giving out information to move. When the brain says, I want to lift my hand, it sends that information down the spine, and then it sends it out through the somatic nervous system. And the somatic nervous system also takes information in. There's something on my foot. I feel it. It's cold. It goes up into the brain, and brain is like, yes, that is coldness. Maybe it's a puddle. So they're in communication. The somatic nervous system, it takes directions from the brain, but it can also work on its own, running around like a chicken with its head cut off. A chicken can have its head cut off, no brain, but it's still running around because the whole somatic nervous system is still intact and is still able to give it direction. When we have reflexes, classic, you go to the doctor and they hit your knee and your leg shoots out. The brain is not telling you to do that. That's the somatic nervous system itself working on its own. We can do pretty complicated movements without the brain having to participate. Each vertebra is coordinating with the other vertebra. I feel heat on my arm, my whole body goes away. It's another reflex that's totally the somatic nervous system. If we zoom in on one vertebra, so it can send information to the brain, it can coordinate with other vertebra, takes sensation in from the back, and sends movement signals out the front of the body. Why is that important? When someone can't feel their left hand, can't feel it all, totally numb, but they can still move, a doctor knows what vertebra corresponds to the left hand. And if you can't feel, we know that there's a problem in the back where sensation comes into the vertebra, but you can still move, which means the front of that vertebra is just fine. If you couldn't move your hand at all, but you can still feel, ouch, then we know there's a problem at the front because that's what controls movement. But there's not a problem at the back because you're getting the sensation. It's good for diagnosis to know sensation comes in the back, movement comes out the front. And every area of the body corresponds to one particular vertebra where all of its nerves come in and go out. Somatic nervous system all the nerves that come off of the spine, the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is made up of ganglia. Ganglia. What are ganglia? One ganglia is a ganglion. Ganglion. They're just little lumps of nervous tissue. There's also some up top here.
Ganglia.
Each ganglion corresponds to a particular part of the body. The heart, the stomach, it tells the heart what to do, it tells the stomach what to do, the intestines, blah, blah, blah. And the liver, gallbladder, genitals, all kinds of parts of the body. Each has its own ganglia, which is like a mini brain, tells it what to do. Like the somatic nervous system, it can take input from the central nervous system. It's sending all of its information to the brain, but it also does things on its own so that the brain doesn't have to worry about that. The autonomic nervous system has two divisions. The sympathetic division is the fight or flight division. It tells the heartbeat, beat faster. It tells the stomach, slow down. This is no time to digest. We need to run. It tells the glands in the body, we need adrenaline, produce adrenaline. And that's these ganglia that live by the spine. On the other hand, the parasympathetic system, most of it is located in these upper nerves that coordinate to the vagus nerve. All of its little tendrils, they also go to the heart and the stomach and the intestines. But they're not saying fight or flight. They're parasympathetic. They're saying rest and digest.
Rest and digest.
So it's telling the heart, slow your roll. We don't need to beat so fast. It's telling the stomach, do your thing. It's time to digest. Sympathetic. Parasympathetic. The sympathetic part of the autonomic nervous system is fight or flight. And the parasympathetic part is rest and digest. Now, if the brain has just a thought, just a belief that things are scary or things are bad, or oh no, it's an ice cream truck. I got run over by an ice cream truck when I was a little kid. Boom, 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 flight or fight. We got to get out of here. If you have a traumatic experience, then just the memory, the idea of that traumatic experience, you're in fight or flight. And that stresses out the system. If you're fight or flight all the time, then you never digest. That's not good. You never rest. That's not good. The body needs to rest. On the other hand, if you're always having a strong parasympathetic response and all you can do is rest, I can't get out of bed. That can be debilitating too. If the autonomic nervous system, because of some stories in the brain, is always fight or flight, always come on, we gotta roll, that can become clinical anxiety. If the autonomic nervous system is always saying parasympathetically, rest and digest and rest and rest and just melt into the couch, that can turn into clinical depression. The autonomic nervous system is an important one for mental health. We'll come back to it in other videos. One more, it's the enteric nervous system.
Enteric.
Nervous system. Enteric nervous system. The gut is like a second brain. And not just the gut, but the esophagus, to the gut, to the small intestines, to the rectum, all have neurons in them, quote unquote brain cells. Stomach, intestines. Every inch of this big tube, the throat, the stomach, the butt, it's all a tube, people! Entirely lined with neurons. Between the inside of the guts and the outside skin, there's a network of neurons called the plexus, a web of neurons that is all over. There are so many neurons in our guts. It really is like a mini brain, taking in sensory information about what is going on in here, what chemicals are in here, what foods are in here. Do we have salt? Is there water? What's the pH level? How much solid waste? How much liquid waste? Do we need more fuel? All of that information is coming into this plexus, and in turn the plexus is telling the guts, it is time to digest. We need a little more acid in here. We had a big steak. We got to break it down. It's broken down enough. Send it to the small intestine. It still needs more breaking down. Send it to the large intestine. The plexus, the enteric nervous system, is listening carefully to what's going on chemically, what's going on physically inside the stomach, the esophagus, the intestines, etc. And using that information to make some pretty complicated decisions. What chemicals to send in there, where to send them, which muscles to start doing peristalsis, sending waste along its way. There's a prayer in the Jewish tradition where folks, when using the bathroom, will take that time to be thankful to have a system that takes in the food that's needed, the water that's needed, distributes it all throughout this rich network of this body to keep us healthy and giving all the cells everything they need, and then to put out what we no longer need. Into the circle of life, Simba. Into the sewage treatment plant. To become part of other creatures. It comes in, it goes out, it becomes food for something else. We can take a little time to say thank you. Beautiful mechanism of nature. Thank you, evolution. Thank you, enteric nervous system, for taking it in, putting it where it needs to go, and getting rid of what we no longer need. It's doing a lot of work without the input of the brain. So just like the somatic nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, the enteric nervous system, it has some talk with the brain. Most of its work, it does on its own. It is a very independent branch of the nervous system. It's an expert at what needs to happen in the guts. But it's always sending information to the central nervous system. The executive at the top needs to know what's going on in each part of the body. One thing the brain does with the information it gets from the enteric nervous system in particular is it gives rise to mood. A lot of the times when we're in a good mood, it's because the enteric nervous system is sending a thumbs up to the boss in the brain and saying, we got enough salt, pH is pretty good, we've got enough fuel for the foreseeable future, we're not backed up back there, we're in a good mood. And sometimes when we feel like we're in a bad mood, it's because the brain has been getting a bad message from the enteric nervous system. We don't have enough food. When's the last time we slept? Whatever you ate did not have enough vitamin C. It's sending that message to the brain, and the brain doesn't experience it as, we need vitamin C. The brain experiences as, Mood is a barometer of what's going on in the body. But of course, mood is also informed by, was it a tough day at work? Maybe one of my relationships isn't going the way that I wish it was. And it goes the other way. If we are experiencing a hard time and our brain is thinking, man, life is so hard right now, then it is sending some kind of influence into the enteric nervous system. Sometimes when you're anxious, you get upset stomach. Sometimes when you're depressed, you're either eating more or eating less. That is one of the symptoms of clinical depression. Because the brain, the central nervous system, and our belief about what's going on in our life influences the enteric nervous system. This is the brain-body connection. This is the mind-body connection at work. We can have some belief in our mind that affects our brain, that affects our guts, gives us symptoms. That is the nervous system. The central nervous system, the brain, we're going to do a whole video on the brain. It's producing this wild thing we call experience. It's sending out directions to do particular movements. It's making plans. The brain is the big picture thinker. The somatic nervous system is the system of wires that connects the messages from the brain to all the things that we have to move in the world. These wires also take in sensation information from every part of the body and send it to the brain, and it uses some information to make decisions on its own, like the chicken with its head cut off. Reflexes that don't need the brain's input. The autonomic nervous system is the sympathetic fight or flight response, or the parasympathetic rest digest response. And the enteric nervous system is the gut, the brain that tells the gut what to do. That is an overview of the nervous system. We will go into depth in the brain. We've got another video on the neuron if you want to zoom into the cellular level. I hope you enjoyed, and have a good day.